Hello and welcome to the Elephant Lounge. I'm your host, Tuesday Anawat. Thank you for joining me. Today I am going to take you through the timeline of Jussie Smollett. And we're going to talk about all of the details, all of the information, the full deluxe version from the beginning to where we are today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Who is Jussie Smollett? Or is it Smollett? I'm not sure. I want to say Smollett, so forgive me. He is an actor on a TV show called Empire and someone who appears to be starting a singing career, although maybe not so much now. He considers himself an activist for blacks and LGBT. He is half black and half Jewish and totally gay. His mother was involved with the Black Panthers. Jussie's also done activist work with people like Kamala Harris, and he seems to be well connected with the Democratic Party. There's photos of him with Michelle and Barack Obama. Now, the initial story, as I discovered it, was on Twitter. I had no idea who Jussie was prior, never heard of the show Empire, because like most conservatives, I stopped watching TV years ago. In fact, 24 was the last show that I'd watched. Now, the original timeline was reported by TMZ. TMZ claimed that they got the story from a smaller blog, but they did not cite the name of that blog, which I found a little interesting. On January 29th, Jussie was in Chicago. He left his apartment to go to a Subway, not the transportation kind, the sandwich kind, at around 2 a.m. The temperature at this time was around minus 20 degrees due to a polar vortex. Jussie said that he was on the phone with his manager when two white men wearing MAGA hats approached him. They called him an Empire f***it and nigger. They attacked him, placed a rope or like a noose around his neck, poured an unknown chemical on him. This we would soon learn that it was bleach. And they yelled out, "This is MAGA country," in Chicago. Okay. Jussie's gay, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but I thought I'd let you know. So Jussie, he returns to his apartment after this attack. His creative director and friend, Frank Gatson, called police about 40 minutes later. When police arrived, they're told to shut off their body cams, and Jussie was still wearing the rope around his neck. Police asked Jussie and his manager for their phones, and both refused to hand over their phones. Jussie goes to the hospital. He or Frank, whichever, they posted some pictures of Jussie on social media. They show a couple cuts. So one is under his right eye, another is on the left side of his face. His face looks a little swollen. The cuts are superficial, no stitches, but they do report that he broke a rib. The police report, this is released soon after. Okay, so probably within 48 hours. We discover that MAGA hats were not part of the report, and neither were the race of his attackers. Also, the police report does not say that Jussie had mentioned the phrase, "This is MAGA country." Now, we soon find out that this was only reported to TMZ initially, the Chicago Police Department. They called Jussie about this discrepancy, and then they later report to the public that Jussie confirmed it with them. It was added to the report as an addendum. We also learn that about a week prior to this attack, Jussie received a threat through the mail that was sent to the studio for Empire. The note included large cutout letters from a magazine like Black Dahlia style. You've seen it before. It's very common in movies and TV shows. Those words spelled out, "You will die, black, fat." Then in large childlike letters in red marker, MAGA was in the return address, which makes sense because all supporters have red markers. There's also a drawing on this letter, and it appears to also be in the red marker, of course. And it shows what appears to be a stick figure hanging from a tree with a noose around his neck and a gun pointed at that figure. And also included in this letter or note is a white powder. And this was already identified as a crushed up Tylenol or ibuprofen. After this threat we learn that Jussie was offered some extra security by the studio, but that he had refused. Now, luckily, Chicago is filled with cameras, especially all over this particular area that Jussie is at. It's a very well-to-do neighborhood. Police announced within a few days that they have reviewed hundreds of hours of film from various sources, both public and private cameras, but they have yet to find the actual altercation. Various reporters from a multitude of the mainstream media, celebrities, and politicians, they all pounce on this story. They share their support and their outrage. Oh, the virtue signaling is just glorious. Many go real far in their accusations, blaming the president, all of his supporters, those closest to Jussie, like his castmates and his friends. They all showed their support, and then they ask the public to download his music. Now, the rest of Americans, we're a little suspicious, and we start asking questions like, what's a celebrity doing going outside in such cold temperatures to go to a Subway for a sandwich? If there was this prior threat, why didn't he accept security? Why'd he wait 40 minutes to call police? Why'd he still have a noose around his neck when police arrived? I even got into a little Twitter spat about this, because somebody told me he needed to preserve the evidence for fingerprints. Number one, unless the surface is flat and non-porous, you're not going to get any fingerprints out of it. Number two, the likely testing that could possibly be done would be a DNA test, like a touch DNA test, and I can almost guarantee that in -20 below wind chill, your attacker is going to have gloves on. And finally, this is not a murder case. This type of case will likely not demand that forensic testing be done. It's around his neck. His DNA is on that rope, okay? Take it off. Why would he not give police his phone information? That doesn't make any sense. And if attackers are carrying around this chemical, which we actually learn around, this time, people are starting to ask questions. We learn that it's possibly bleach. Okay. So why didn't they pour it in his eyes? If you're carrying around a chemical as a weapon, you're gonna go for the organ that's gonna cause the most damage. I mean, we're talking about racist thugs here in the streets of Chicago, the MAGA country people. They're gonna go for the eyes. And then also with bleach, depending on what concentration it is, it can freeze between 7 to 20 degrees. In -20 degree weather, that bleach would have been frozen. But even if there was a way to, keep it warm enough, it's not reasonable to think that someone would carry this around as a weapon. It just seems a little weird. Who carries bleach? Why would Trump supporters, who were racist homophobes, be in the middle of Chicago yelling, "This is MAGA country"? If this attack were connected to the threat sent prior in the mail, how did these attackers know he'd be going out at 2 a.m. this night? Were they actually just waiting in the bitter cold, just hoping their target would magically appear? Why would any racist MAGA supporter even be watching Empire or know who the hell Jussie was? So many people had no idea who he was before this story appeared in the media. Certainly conservatives. We did not know. Now, the story on the face of it sounds ridiculous. Rumors begin to circulate that Jussie may have been at a club, perhaps maybe angered someone over a lover's feud. Some even said this might be a grinder hookup gone wrong. Others were not so much buying into stories that they couldn't prove. We weren't sure what happened. Perhaps he was attacked, but it certainly didn't take place the way Jussie had claimed. Now, around this time, police release a photo still of two people who appear to be walking down the same street where the alleged attack took place. They say these two are persons of interest who may have witnessed something. We're told what appears to be two men are walking away from the location approximately 15 to 20 minutes prior to the time of the attack. They were also on the other side of the street. where Smollett says he was, where this attack occurred, police indicate they can confirm Jussie's presence at the nearby subway. There appears to be now only 60 seconds where Jussie is off camera. In addition, they have footage of Jussie walking into his apartment building, and he can be seen with his sandwich. He's carrying his sandwich and this cord around his neck. So now we learn that it's not a rope, it's some kind of a cord. It turns out to be like a clothesline cord. Now, on Saturday, after the attack, Smollett goes to Los Angeles to perform. In front of a crowd, he says that he's all about love. He regales on about being black and gay. He's gay. I don't know if you know that or not. But he fought back. He wants us to know that he fought back. He says that he did not break a rib. It was just bruised. The attackers were not wearing MAGA hats. He was not hospitalized overnight like some people had said. And he announces he's the gay Tupac because he's gay. Some media outlets began to report the two people in the released photo were identified and were said to be homeless. Now, a neighbor who lives in the same building, she comes forward and says she was out walking her dog early that morning and claimed a redneck-looking man was out in front of the building pacing, smoking a cigarette, carrying a rope. This was never confirmed. Police almost immediately come out and state they had found no evidence. Since cameras are in front of the building, they cannot verify any such man appeared. Eventually, it's reported that Smollett had turned over some of his phone records. Police go on record saying that the reports did not meet the standard for a proper investigation. They were called limited and redacted, and later the word altered was added. So police at this stage announce that they're trying to identify where that cord came from. Where was it purchased? It's obvious the police want to have the phone records in order to determine the exact time he was on the phone with his manager, so they can narrow down the time, search the camera footage for that time, as well as GPS. They can tell exactly where a person is at. So at some point, we learn that the police did subpoena the phone records. And the letter threat, that was sent to the FBI. So they're doing their own investigation there. The Chicago Police Department is very careful to note that Jussie is still considered a victim. The FBI investigation, we still haven't heard anything about. So apparently they're still doing their own investigation. As of recording this, nothing has come out yet. Eventually, Smollett would sit down and do an interview on television with Good Morning America. Now, the interview is very difficult to take seriously. Smollett is not very convincing. He's smiling during the whole thing, but he does say a few interesting things. They show him the picture of the people of interest, and he says that he has no doubt those are his attackers. Now, I'll probably be doing a separate analysis of the interview because it's just golden, but he does confirm that the two men were masked. However, he states that if he had said they were Muslim or Mexican or black, people would have taken him more seriously and believed him. So from that statement alone, we are forced to infer that his attackers were indeed white or Asian, I guess. I'm not sure. Now, after doing this interview, things moved really fast. We learned that the day prior to this interview, police arrested two brothers of Nigerian descent, and they were detained. They were believed to be the persons of interest that were in the photo. So the whole story about them being homeless, that was likely to just deter, tipping anybody off. Now, they raided their apartment and police end up taking various items, and they post the list of these items online. They include red hats, a magazine, a script from the show Empire, and according to one of their relatives, they had left the day of the attack to go to Nigeria. Police got a hold of their itinerary and caught up with them at the airport when they returned to Chicago. Now, these brothers brothers, their photos make their way around social media, and they're immediately identified. They had appeared as extras on Empire and are said to know Jussie personally. People start taking screenshots off their social media accounts, and they prove Smollett follows them and vice versa. There's even some quick exchanges, one saying, "I love you, Jussie." After being held for 48 hours, the brothers are released and we're told the police no longer consider them persons of interest, but no other information is given, so we're sort of left hanging. What's going on? Police say they would like to speak with Smollett, and it's reported almost immediately after. I mean, we're talking within a few hours here, the brothers turned and gave police some valuable information. Now, initially, it's just rumors, and we learned that the magazine that they removed from the brothers' home, that was used to create the threat letter. Some reporters claim they went down to the location. I think this was the New York Post, and they found this place of the alleged attack and found a hot sauce bottle that smelled like bleach. And just to fast forward, we still don't know whether that hot sauce bottle was a part of this attack. The brothers told police they were paid $4,000 to help stage this attack. $3,500 was paid initially with a check, and another $500 would be paid later on. They even rehearsed what would happen. The motive? Well, initially it was reported Jussie was going to be written off Empire, and the script found in their apartment was said to have confirmed this. However, Fox comes out immediately and denies this, claiming it's false. The brothers offer up proof where they purchased the clothesline at a hardware store, and again they showed the police their check that Jussie had written to them. The phone records Jussie handed over that were redacted, well, police did indeed subpoena the phone record. And all they did was look at the numbers Jussie had redacted or altered. Jussie did the work for them, and these phone records are what initially led them to the brothers. It appears they were on the phone with Jussie before and after the attack. Police had also searched cab records, including Uber and other services, and so that's another way that they tracked him down. They confirmed that the brothers had taken one of these services to the area, and then we learned that Jussie seemed to have used social media to reach out to them. It appears that Jussie was flying into Chicago that day, but his plane was late. So there were several posts that he had made saying, "Oh, my flight's delayed. Oh, I'm just now leaving." And these two brothers, these poor extras that were pulled into this horrible plan, they take this service down there and they're just stuck walking around in the freezing cold because Jussie didn't come into town on time. They were supposed to be down there about 10 o'clock. At this point, Jussie now lawyers up. Police still want to speak to him. The official statement from Jussie's camp is to triple down in the highest order. Jussie now wants us to believe he is shocked that these two attacked him. One of the brothers was training him, and he had paid him for this service. An attempt to explain away the money that was transferred. He's basically victimized all over again because they betrayed him. Does Jussie not realize that we've seen the photos of these two men? They're beasts. The very idea that these two men actually attacked him and didn't leave him in a coma lying on the street with the hope that someone would call an ambulance is beyond any reality that a reasonable person could fathom. He certainly wouldn't be still carrying his sandwich. The police finally come forward and they say that the motive for this hoax was money. Jussie was upset about making $60,000 per episode and he wanted more. Apparently, the brothers said that because the letter he sent himself didn't garner enough outrage or get attention that Jussie desired, this is why he wanted to take things to a different level and stage staged this attack. Police no longer considered Jussie a victim. Police also made a note that they found it odd Jussie was only off of camera for 60 seconds, and when they did a walkthrough of the attack with Jussie, and he was telling the police what happened, he seemed to know where the camera was right away and pointed it out, but the cameras were facing in a different direction. During the interview, he talks about this as well, the one he did on TV, and police say that he wanted it on camera, but I'm not so sure about that. I think Jussie may have done his homework about where these cameras are and where they're pointed at, because he seemed kind of happy during the interview when he's talking about the fact that it didn't get caught on camera. He just so happens to be in the one magic spot where it's blind and there's no cameras pointed in that direction. And this is a staged attack. Yeah, I'm not so sure he wanted the attack on camera. That's just my opinion. So Jussie hires a new attorney. For some reason, he decided to switch attorneys, hire a crisis management firm, and this new attorney is Mark Geragos, and I'm sure you've heard of him before. He's the guy who was involved with Scott Peterson. The case then went to a grand jury, and of course, they arrested him, but rather than actually going to arrest him, they allow him to turn himself in. He goes in at 5 a.m. Police come out, they do their press conference where we learn all the wild details, and everything seems to point to the fact that Jussie is a total sociopath. Dead eyes, worried about money, worried about image, creates a hoax. Nothing matters to him but him. Now, lots of people are pointing out that he's got this music video that features a man in a noose, and with his activism with left-wing causes, they're suggesting that his motive may revolve around a recent bill that was passed, I think with Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, and it was a bill about lynching. However, I'm not so sure this rabbit hole is much deeper. Okay, number one, we will never find out anyway, because Chicago is very left-wing. They're going to protect anyone that would be above them. Number two, because I believe Jussie is indeed a sociopath, you have to know that they are always concerned about money and image. They are always in it for themselves. He simply used the political climate to feign hero status and possibly gain some money and popularity. It seems much more believable to me that he was truly out for money. As predicted, the media begins to pivot. All the celebrities, all the media, or the alphabet hosts, as it were, they're trying to say the predictable, what we already know they're going to say, that they believed because it could have happened. They have somehow convinced themselves that Trump is a racist and anyone who supports him must be racist. It's absurd. And once again, they make any excuse to avoid the actual problem that someone from their side is the actual racist. People who are left-wing are only interested in creating division. Okay, not everyone, but the far left, okay? People from their side are desperate for attention, so desperate for attention that they actually have to hire people to sow discord among others. Someone from their side of the aisle has now made it more difficult for real victims to be believed. Once again, it's another hoax. Just earlier in January, they screwed up and lied about the kids from Covington. Someone from their side is yet another psychopath who not only staged a hate crime, but got on national television and had the temerity to lecture Americans and talk about love and how devastated he is having to live with this fake crime he committed. Now, Jussie was charged with a felony count of disorderly conduct. And apparently that is in regards to filing this false police report. And of course, he's trying to still double down and claim that the money he paid them was for this nutrition program because he was training for his tour or whatever. And that's exactly where we are at today. As I said before, we're still waiting to hear from the FBI. I have no idea what they're going to do. That could possibly be a sentence of 3 to 5 years. As far as this case, what he was booked on, it could very well be 1 to 3 years plus a fine. Will Jussie do time? That's the biggest question. And we're all still waiting to hear something. Jussie did make bail, by the way, and he went to his castmates at the studio and apologized and said he would never do this. He would never fake a crime. He's still lying. It's as if this is all this guy knows how to do. It's insulting to our intelligence that this guy wants us to believe these two huge Nigerian dudes who would crush him, literally crush him if they actually attacked him. He wants us to believe that not only did they legitimately attack him, but that he still was able to fight back and recover his sandwich. I want to know, did he eat the sandwich? Because he waited 40 minutes to call police, okay? Did you eat that sandwich? Because if you ate that sandwich, I know for a fact you planned this. Because when something happens to you, that type of stress, that type of altercation, you are not going to be able to eat. You might not be able to eat for days. Because that's scary. For whatever reason, this guy, he knows the time of day. He knows what triggers people on his side. And he made up this ridiculous story for personal gain, which is just disgusting and revolting. But honestly, do I think he's going to serve any time? Probably not. The thing that really disturbs me about this guy, that seals the deal for me, is back in 2007, I believe it was, he gets pulled over for a DUI, and guess what he does? He gives police his brother's name. What kind of a sick person does that? So not only does he have a record of lying to police, but he actually gives the name of his own brother. I mean, I could almost understand you giving the name of somebody you hate, like an enemy or something, maybe. I don't know. But your own brother? Why would you do that? That's just disgusting to me. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm willing to bet he gets a fine, maybe some probation. I hope. I would like to see him do a year, at least. He was written out of Empire for the last 2 shows. Will they allow him to come back? Will they allow this guy to come back? Because if I think back to Roseanne for posting a tweet, she was fired. She was totally removed from her show. And this guy, he just gets removed from the last 2 episodes and there's no final word on whether he's fired or not. Roseanne didn't get a trial. Roseanne didn't commit a freaking crime. Roseanne didn't get arrested. She made a tweet and everybody demands that she's fired. This guy commits a crime. He gets arrested. It's so obvious that he's lying. And there's no official word on him being fired. What world are we living in? There's a double standard here, and it's disgusting. I have to laugh about it because I don't know what else to do. So I don't know. Do you think he's going to serve any time? I don't know if he will. I really don't. I hope he gets a year, and I hope he gets fired. I really do. I mean, eventually he'll be able to come back, but I think an acknowledgement of what he's done is the first step. And the fact that he's trying to double down on this and lawyer up and get this crisis management firm, that speaks volumes to me, that he doesn't care. And he doesn't care who he hurts along the way. And I will be back with Michael Jackson